Hello and welcome back, guys. We're now starting a new story, Under the Red Hood, by King Azrael. You can find author's profile link in the description. Let's begin. Alright, class, go get changed into your hero outfits and meet at Mach City B. It's time for your hero training. Chairs shuffled across the floor of Class 1A as the students listened to their teacher, Shota Aizawa, with excitement coursing through their veins. Man! I wonder what we're going to do today. Kaminari wondered aloud. However, one student took a bit longer than the others. Izuku smiled as he shoved his hero analysis journal into his backpack, just as the sweetest voice he could hear reached his ears. Izuku, come on. We have to go before Aizawa-sensei gets mad at us. Turning to look, he spotted Ochako Uraraka, his first love and now girlfriend. He had confessed to her after the Hosu incident months ago, and since then, they had been what Mina dubbed the Cinnabon couple. Oh yeah, sorry. Rubbing the back of his head, Izuku stood up as Uraraka grabbed his hand, leading him out of the classroom. As they followed their classmates, they stopped when they saw their sister class, 1B, exit their classroom. Oh look, it's Midoriya, Itsuka Kendo, their class representative, said with a smile, giving a large wave before her eyes drifted to the couple's interlocked hands. She wasn't the only one to notice. Reiko Yanagi gave an emotionless stare. Oh hey, Kendo. Sorry, but we were just on our way to our hero training, so we can't talk right now, but maybe later. Izuku hurriedly explained as they ran off. Itsuka gave a forced smile before responding, oh, of course. Go ahead. Once the two left, Itsuka sighed. What's wrong, Prez? Missing mean green already? Setsuna lightly elbowed her friend in the ribs, clearly noticing Itsuka's feelings for Midoriya. Blushing, Itsuka crossed her arms. What are you saying? I just care about him as a classmate. Besides, he already has a girlfriend. Yes, so please refrain from any more teasing, Tokage, Reiko interjected, having heard enough about Izuku's girlfriend. Setsuna raised her hands in concession, stopping her teasing but still noticing Itsuka's blush and the small frustration on Reiko's face. Izuku entered the boys' changing room, seeing his friends already changing into their hero suits. Joining them, he went to his locker, unlocking it and pulling out his hero case. As he stripped off his shirt, he could feel the stares directed at him. He knew the reason why: his back, chest, arms, and sides were marked with scars. Pretending not to notice, Izuku remained silent, especially when a stern glare from Bakugo met his gaze. You better not say anything, Deku. The message was clear, so he quickly tried to change into his hero suit. He had gotten faster since the beginning of UA, and in no time at all, he finished changing. Being the first to leave, Izuku stood by the wall, groaning as he put a hand to his forehead. He shouldn't be afraid of Bakugo. He never showed it, but he loathed him. His childhood had been difficult because of Bakugo. Suddenly, one for all sparked within him, the energy growing erratic until it stung, causing Izuku to grip his wrist. What? He gripped harder, feeling the power surge, but he couldn't control it. Gritting his teeth, he tried to focus, and the quirk slowly calmed down until it cut out. Shaking his head, he clenched his fist a few times, confused about what had just happened. Forcing himself to forget about it, he looked at his classmates. They were all dressed in their hero suits and gear, ready for the upcoming training practice. With no disturbances, the students made their way to the Mach City. Upon arrival, the first people they saw were Aizawa and All Might, the two instructors for this exercise. Good, you're all here, Aizawa began, looking at the group. Today we will be running a simulated battle experience against each other. You faced off in 2v2 situations at the beginning of the year, along with battles against teachers. Today, however, will be different. Well said, Aizawa. All Might exclaimed, patting the underground hero's back. This will be a special training exercise to see how far you all have come. All of Class 1A will be on the hero team except for one. The one who is selected to be on the villain team will be random. We will go one by one until everyone has a chance to be a villain. The villain's task is simple, to prevent their capture. This can be done by fighting or hiding, it doesn't matter. The heroes will try to capture the villain using any means necessary. To mark a capture, a hero must wrap the yellow tape around the villain's arms and/or legs. Izuku glanced at his classmates. He had already memorized the rules, but the smirk on Bakugu's face after any means necessary was concerning. Izuku's hand sparked as he thought of the damage Bakugu might inflict on their classmates. Alright, now to begin the selection. The first student to be a villain is Grape Juice. What? Don't please. Mineta screamed, gaining a chuckle from the class as he pleaded, tugging at Aizawa's pants. Alright, the exercise begins now. I don't even get a head start. Mineta fainted, overwhelmed by the stress. The class looked at each other, unsure of what to do, until many of the female classmates turned their eyes toward Izuku. Why are you looking at me? He asked, confused, until he noticed the downed Mineta. Slowly walking forward, he was thrown a small roll of yellow tape by Aizawa. Kneeling, he wrapped the tape around Mineta's arm just as a buzzer sounded. Good job, problem child, Aizawa said with a small smile before straightening up. Now that you all understand what to do, it's time for the real exercise to start. So can someone please wake up Mineta? Kaminari sighed as he pulled away from his friend, delivering a small shock to Mineta, who then awoke, signaling the start of the true exercise. One by one, the students took on their roles as villains, and while most were as expected, a few stood out. Momo set up several clever traps for the hero team, and Toru utilized her invisibility skillfully. However, none outshone Izuku, whose influence led the hero team to victory time and again, drawing the ire of one individual in particular. Alright, so far so good. Now it's time for villain Deku to make his appearance, Aizawa and All Might said, clearly excited about this matchup. They understood why the hero team had been successful, and with their top student now on the opposing side, they were eager to see how the hero team would fare. As the round began, Izuku activated One for All and dashed into an alley in the large city. He intended to hide, wanting to reserve his fighting skills as a last resort, especially since his quirk was acting strangely. In the previous rounds, Bakugu had become increasingly aggressive in his pursuit, targeting not just Izuku but also their classmates. The relentless insults and violence were taking a toll on Izuku, and his anger was beginning to spiral out of control. It felt like a reminder of his past, reliving the explosions and abuse he had endured. He closed his eyes, attempting to calm himself, but Bakugu's voice echoed through the area. Where are you, DKU? He's close. Izuku thought, scanning for any sign of the heroes when suddenly, he shot his hand out, throwing Toru aside as she tried to wrap tape around him. He's over here. Toru yelled. Activating One for All, Izuku leaped from wall to wall, scaling the alleyway. Toru's shout undoubtedly drew the heroes closer. Reaching the top, he jumped to gain distance, hoping to escape. Don't think you can run. Bakugu shouted. AP shot. Izuku felt a sharp pain as an explosive shot grazed his arm. If he hadn't moved, it would have caused serious injury. He flicked his finger, sending a burst of air that knocked some classmates back. I have to thank Hatsum, he thought, recalling how much she had improved his Air Force gloves. Now wasn't the time to dwell on her, though. As he searched for a safe escape route, he realized he had been anticipated. Landing on an apartment building, he was suddenly blown off his feet by an explosive mine set by Momo. Thrown into the air, he couldn't react as Todoroki shot a column of ice, freezing him in place. He managed to cover his face as he plummeted into the city square. His fall was somewhat cushioned, but he was still hurt. Standing up, he saw the group of heroes land in front of him, with Bakugu leading the charge. Desperately searching for an escape, Izuku was caught off guard by another AP shot that struck his leg. He cried out, falling to the ground as the heroes shouted, Uraraka being the loudest. What are you doing, Bakugo? What the hell, man? Shut up, you extras. Katsuki snarled, advancing toward Izuku, who tried to cover the wound and stop the bleeding. You think you're better than me? This is what you deserve. What are you talking about? Izuku asked, genuinely confused. He had done nothing to provoke Bakugo, but an explosion-fueled fist struck his jaw. As he faced the ground, an announcement echoed through the city. Katsuki Bakugo. Any more violence and you will be expelled. Katsuki clicked his tongue, smirking as he grabbed Izuku by the collar of his hero uniform. You always need someone to save you. You're pathetic. No wonder Night Eye died. No wonder Inko is nothing but a burden. Izuku felt One for All surge wildly, the anger he had been suppressing erupting. Using his uninjured leg, he kicked Bakugo in the stomach, unleashing One for All without restraint. The impact sent Bakugo flying, and the resulting shockwave knocked others back. Too furious to think clearly, Izuku charged forward, finding Bakugo buried in a wall. Don't you dare, he shouted, throwing Bakugo to the ground and pummeling him. His knuckles tore, blood mixing with Bakugo's as he focused on inflicting pain. All those years. When you tormented me throughout my childhood. I'll make you feel a fraction of what I experienced. One for All fluctuated, the energy flickering between colors. His hero costume ripped as One for All's power surged. The Air Force gloves May had designed were now mostly torn, exposing Izuku's skin. Bakugo's face was battered, but he still wore a smug grin. Determined to end this, Izuku lifted his arm, only for someone to grab it tightly. Izuku, stop. Gritting his teeth, he tugged at his arm, accidentally hitting the person who had intervened. Looking back, he froze in shock as Ochako stood there, her cheek swelling badly. Boom. Izuku was blasted back as Katsuki used one last explosion before collapsing. Before Izuku could rise, One for All cut out entirely, his quirk erased as Aizawa knelt beside him. Problem child, are you alright? Yeah. Aizawa looked concerned but quickly directed All Might to rush Bakugo to Recovery Girl. Alright, come on. He helped Izuku up, offering a shoulder to lean on. We need to get you fixed up. But what about? They're already being taken care of. Silence fell between them as Izuku glanced back at the crying Uraraka, who looked at him with fear in her eyes. Following her gaze, he noticed his hands were dripping with blood. This wasn't your fault, problem child. I saw and heard everything. Trust me, we'll work something out. Aizawa offered Izuku a reassuring smile, to which Izuku responded with a half-hearted smile in return. That incident was 3 weeks ago, and things couldn't be any worse. His friends looked at him like he was a monster, forgetting that Bakugo had started it in the first place. Even Uraraka had been keeping her distance from him, and it was all mentally taxing, not to mention how Bakugo constantly reminded him of his actions day in and day out. His control over One for All was at an all-time low as well. Every time he activated the quirk, it would quickly become unstable and dangerous. He couldn't fathom why this was happening to him. Honestly, he probably would have broken down had he not received the support he did after the incident. Class 1B, the Big Three, Aizawa, Midnight, Hatsum, and even Mitsuki Bakugo were all pillars of support that kept him stable, but none more so than the most important people in his life. His daughter, Eri Midoriya, who was officially adopted with help from UA after the overhaul incident, and his mother, Inko Midoriya, an angel of a woman who did not judge him after he had told her what led to such an outburst. Right now, he was headed towards the faculty break room to pick up Eri, having left the girl with Midnight during his daily training to regain control of his quirk. Entering the large H-shaped building, he headed to the second floor. Walking down the hallways, he kept his head down. The training incident had spread beyond Class 1A and into the entirety of the school, as such, he felt isolated from everyone else. It's like Aldera all over again. Izuku sighed, unsure if he could deal with this. Izuku. Izuku felt a weight jump onto him while two soft hands pushed against his back. He didn't need to look to know who it was. Mei, what are you doing? Getting your measurements, obviously. Mei jumped off as Izuku turned around to face the pink-haired inventor. He couldn't help but smile at Mei, and while he would usually blush at her touching him, he had become somewhat accustomed to it. Over the weeks, he had visited the support studio more than he had before the hero training. She had been the one to support him with gear to help him regain control of his quirk. He had asked her before why she was doing it, but he had never gotten a straight answer, only a small blush and, if I don't help you, then who will help test my babies? It was her, along with Atsuka and Reiko, who had been the most supportive in his journey. That also included Aizawa, who helped him train daily and gave him free time despite the fact he was supposed to be on house suspension. Anyways. What are you doing right now? I got a new version of your Air Force gloves ready to go. Actually, I'm on my way to pick up Eri, so I don't think I'll be able to test them out right now. Mei smiled brightly. Fine. Still, you have to promise you'll come by later this week. So go. Pushing Izuku to walk, Mei waved him off. Tell my baby I said hi. Wait, what? I said to tell her I said hi. Before Izuku could question Mei further, she ran off, and though he couldn't see it, she had a massive blush on her face. Shrugging it off, he continued down his path before reaching the staff room. Knocking, he heard a quiet, "Come in." Opening the door, Izuku walked through the empty room before looking at the couch. Sitting there was Namuri Kayama, or Midnight, in her usual attire, with a small white-haired girl lying asleep in her arms, drooling slightly. Midoriya, I was wondering when you were coming by. Midnight flashed him a smile before adjusting Eri in her arms. The way she held the girl tenderly reminded Izuku of how a mother would cradle her sleeping child. The scene brought a small blush to his cheeks as he sat across from Namuri on the couch. Sorry for leaving you with her. I know you are busy, Midnight-sensei. I hope she wasn't too much of a bother. Namuri giggled. Not at all, Midoriya. This little one is so cute, I'm glad to take care of her. By the way, what did I say about calling me Midnight-sensei when we are alone? Izuku blushed, he just couldn't handle her teasing. Sorry, and Namuri. Namuri blushed slightly, giving him a small smile. So, Midoriya, how is everything with your class? Has it gotten any better? Izuku noticed the genuine concern on Namuri's face. It wasn't the typical concern a teacher showed but one that only someone truly invested would give. Honestly. Not at all. They all avoid me like I'm the plague. Even Ochako has been distant. Namuri shook her head, wondering if Ochako didn't see Izuku for who he truly was. Getting up, she moved past the small wooden coffee table before taking a seat next to Izuku. Still holding Eri with one hand, she placed her free hand on Izuku's shoulder. I'm sorry to hear that, Midoriya. It wasn't your fault. If you want, I can go and talk to them. No, it's better if they take some time. We're friends, so I'm sure they'll come back around. If you say so. Namuri took her hand off of Izuku before the two continued their small talk. Namuri often enjoyed these moments as it was an opportunity to speak to Izuku as a woman and not just as Midnight. They talked for what seemed like hours but was only half of one. Various topics came to mind, such as quirk improvements and hero work, until it was time for Izuku to go. Well, I've got to get back to the dorms before it gets too late. Thank you for taking care of Eri once again, Namuri. As I said, Midoriya, it's no problem. I love this little one. Namuri handed Eri into Izuku's arms, giving a small kiss on the sleeping girl's cheek. The two waved each other off, Izuku leaving while Namuri took the remaining time she had to decompress. Carrying Eri, Izuku headed back to the 1A dorms. The little girl stirred, opening her red eyes just a tad. Papa? Eri hugged Izuku, digging her head into his chest. Yeah, Papa is here, Eri. Giving the girl a small kiss on her horn, he stopped momentarily, allowing Eri to get comfortable, her small hands gripping his shirt as her eyes closed slowly. He couldn't blame her, it was nearing 8:30 p.m., and he was tired from training. Still, he had to bathe and make sure she had eaten, though he suspected midnight had already fed her. Izuku arrived at the 1A dorms and hesitated at the door, wondering if his friends had finally changed their minds about him. He turned the knob and entered the common room, surprised to find it empty. They're probably all in their rooms, he thought as he headed up the stairs to his dorm. Once inside, he went straight to the closet to grab a set of pajamas for Eri along with a fluffy towel. Gently, he nudged her awake, whispering, "Wake up Eri, it's time to take a bath." Eri mumbled in her sleep, and Izuku sighed, realizing she wasn't going to wake up anytime soon. I guess she can always take a bath tomorrow, he thought, but he still needed to change her out of her clothes to keep her comfortable. After changing her, he tucked her into bed, giving her a green stuffed bunny to hold while she slept. Since she was still asleep, he decided to take a bath himself. As the hot water flowed over his skin, Izuku reflected on his past battles. He thought back to his fight with Bakugo, recalling the surge of power he felt. A grin spread across his face at the memory, he had enjoyed that moment of triumph. Bakugo had always been a challenging rival, and proving himself felt rewarding. After finishing his shower, he dried off and changed into simple black shorts and a white tank top. He had decided against wearing All Might merchandise lately, feeling a shift in their relationship. At training, All Might had looked at him with disappointment, which hurt deeply. With his hair still damp, Izuku walked back to his dorm but paused when he saw Ochako's door. He wanted to talk to her, having tried to apologize multiple times without success. He gently knocked on her door, but there was no response. "Ochako, I'm coming in," he called out, opening the door to find a scene he didn't expect. Clothes were strewn on the floor, and to his shock, he saw Ochako sleeping with Bakugo. Izuku felt a rush of emotions as he stepped back, his heart racing. He wanted to scream, to confront them, but the thought of Eri being caught in the middle steadied his hand. He turned away, tears streaming down his face as he returned to his room, feeling crushed. Sitting on the edge of his bed, he tried to muffle his sobs. He had done everything to protect Eri and had grown strong for her. Why would Ochako betray him like this? Just then, he heard Eri's soft voice. "Papa," she said, rubbing her eyes while clutching her bunny. "Eri. Shouldn't you be sleeping?" he asked, forcing a smile. "Papa. Are you sad?" she inquired, sensing his distress. Izuku turned away, unable to find the right words. Eri hugged him from behind, her innocence shining through. "Papa saved me from the bad man. I was sad. But Papa saved me. He made me happy. So don't be sad. I wanna save Papa." He hugged her tightly, feeling grateful for her love. "Thank you, Eri. Papa isn't sad anymore, you saved him." Why, she cheered, her legs kicking in excitement as he lifted her onto the bed. He pulled her close and kissed her forehead. "I love you, Eri." "I love you too, Papa," she replied, her joy infectious. As he tucked them both in, Izuku felt Eri's small arm wrap around his forearm. Watching her drift off to sleep, he couldn't shake his anger about Ochako's betrayal, especially with Bakugo. But for now, he needed to stay strong for Eri and would confront them when the time was right. The next day was much like the previous days of the last 3 weeks. Izuku woke up to Eri's cheerful greeting and a text from Itsuka and Reiko. His classmates had already left, leaving him to care for Eri and prepare breakfast. He was grateful for the time spent with her, especially since Aizawa had allowed him to take Eri outside during his suspension. While he could manage being indoors, Eri needed the fresh air. As the day progressed, Izuku was busy in the kitchen preparing a small lunch for Eri before taking her to Namuri's office. He could hear a children's show playing in the common room when suddenly, the door opened. Eri rushed toward him and hid behind his leg. Ectoplasm-sensei. The skull-faced hero entered the dorm and addressed Izuku directly. Midoriya, All Might wants to see you in his office immediately. Oh. Sure. I just need to finish lunch. Can he wait a little? Izuku prioritized Eri's well-being over whatever important matter All Might had. Just be quick. Nodding, Izuku patted Eri's head and returned to preparing lunch. He quickly packed it in a small lunchbox for her. Alright, Eri, let's get going. He lifted her into his arms and followed Ectoplasm to the main UA building. As they entered and headed upstairs, Izuku noticed a group coming their way. He stepped aside to let them pass and recognized his upperclassmen heading toward the exit. Look, it's Izuku and Eri. A loud voice caught his attention, and Eri smiled brightly as the big three approached. Eri reached out her arms as Nijire ran ahead of Mirio and Amajiki. Nijire. Eri's excited call was met with joy as Nijire gently took her from Izuku's arms. So cute. 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 Nijire cooed, rubbing her cheek against Eri's. Eri giggled, and Izuku smiled. Looks like the usual, doesn't it, Midoriya? Yeah, as long as Eri likes it, that's what matters, right, Mirio-senpai? Izuku hugged the leader of the big three, and Mirio waved back at Amajiki, who shyly returned the gesture. That's for sure. Anyway. What are you doing right now, Izuku? Are you working on any moves? Maybe even super moves? Or is it quirk training? Nijire's excitement bubbled over, but Izuku interrupted her. Nijire, you're doing it again. Eep. Blushing, Nijire tried to hide her face behind Eri, lifting the girl to cover herself. This reaction had become common for Izuku, who found it amusing how Nijire could be so bold yet shy around him. Don't worry too much. I was on my way to meet All Might after dropping Eri off. Oh, sorry. Are we intruding? Amajiki asked timidly, glancing at Ectoplasm, who shook his head. Not at all, it's always good to see you three. I'm sure Eri feels the same. Yup. Eri exclaimed, hugging Nijire's head. There you have it. Mirio smiled before checking his watch. It was good seeing you both, but if we don't go now, we'll be late for training. I understand. It was really good to see all of you. Izuku smiled as he collected Eri from Nijire, who kept looking back as they walked away. Afterward, he dropped Eri off with Namuri along with her lunchbox before heading to All Might's office. After knocking and receiving a "come in," he sat down on the couch. Young Midoriya, would you like some tea? Yes, please. As All Might served him a cup, Izuku felt the heavy atmosphere in the room. So, All Might, why did you call me here? Young Midoriya, I want to talk to you about One for All. What about it? Is it my control? I've been getting better at maintaining it these past few weeks, but I'm still having trouble. Yes, I know, and that's precisely why I called you in here. The incident with Bakugo a few weeks ago put things into perspective for me. I've watched you struggle with a quirk that took me only a year to master. Toshinori's gaze was intense, making Izuku uneasy. What are you saying? Toshinori sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. I'm saying that I think you should hand One for All over to another person. Wait. It's clear that you have no control over your emotions and that you aren't strong enough to wield such a powerful quirk. I don't doubt your heroic spirit, but that isn't enough anymore. Simply put, you aren't ready to be the true successor of One for All. Hold on, All Might. You chose me. Izuku stood up, his eyes welling with tears. You said I was your successor. That I was worthy. And I don't regret saying that, but worthiness doesn't mean you deserve it. Izuku sat back down, running his hands through his hair. So who? Who do you think deserves it? Who? Bakugo. Izuku froze, his vision clouded with anger. Bakugo. He isn't worthy nor does he deserve it. He's violent and self-centered. But that was necessary. Young Midoriya, had he not done what he did, you could have easily run away. In terms of apprehending a villain, he did the right thing. You, on the other hand, nearly lost control. What? I nearly beat him to death. Are you blind? Izuku exclaimed, placing his palms against the desk and glaring at All Might, who remained unfazed. He's nearly killed me before, yet he didn't even get a slap on the wrist. I got house suspension and was threatened with expulsion. He gets off scot-free and is with my girlfriend, and you tell me he's a better option. Personal relations aside, this is the best choice. So please give up OFA willingly, or I will force you to. Izuku fell silent, his head dropping as he smiled bitterly. What a joke. You chose me. Told me I could become a hero. But now you strip it away from me and give it to the one person who has everything. I struggled. I cried and bled for this quirk. He just gets it handed to him like everything else. The energy of OFA turned blood red, and the wood beneath Izuku's hands cracked. He couldn't handle this anymore. Uraraka cheating on him, his friends looking at him like he was the monster, and Bakugo getting everything he could want. It was unfair. So unfair. In a fit of rage, Izuku flipped the table, sending it crashing through the windows and down to the cement below. You fake piece of shit. You haven't helped me since day one. You let Bakugo's attack almost kill me on the first day. You didn't give any of your precious time to even train me. You didn't help me gain control, you only sat back as I broke my body over and over. Aizawa-sensei and Gran Torino were the only people who helped me. You have no right to tell me where this quirk should go. You sit there with your pretentious attitude like you know everything about heroism when you couldn't even teach a single class. You're not a good mentor. You're not a decent person. And you failed at being a hero. You let all for one live. You stupid bstrd. The energy of OFA spiked, growing even more chaotic and turning a deeper red. Izuku's anger knew no bounds. You could have ended the most dangerous being of all time, but you sent him off to prison again. You are the cause of so many needless deaths, it's absurd. Young Midoriya, calm down. Don't you dare tell me to calm down. I worked hard to be here. You are not going to take this away from me, especially for that pompous but. Izuku grabbed All Might by the collar just as the door opened, revealing most of the staff present. Aizawa was the first to step in, yelling at the other heroes to stand down. Midoriya, put All Might down. Come on, we can talk through this. Aizawa had never seen Izuku's quirk react like this, and while he felt pressured to use his own quirk, he trusted Izuku like a son. The last thing he wanted was to see him break. Izuku looked at Aizawa, taking deep breaths as the teacher approached him with his guard down. Turning away, he glared at All Might before throwing the retired hero to the floor. With his fists still clenched, Aizawa led him out of the building. Wait. I need to get airy. I don't think now's the best time. Midnight will take care of her. First, we need to calm you down, alright? Aizawa walked alongside Izuku, showing no hesitation. If Izuku was mad, Aizawa was sure he had a valid reason to be. Sitting in one of the many forest parks within UA, Aizawa sat on a bench beside Izuku, who had shared his story. I can't believe this is happening. I'm sorry, Izuku, but All Might will probably take this up with Nizu, and I'm sure he'll spin it in his favor. I can't do this. Aizawa patted Izuku on the back. He didn't understand why Izuku was going through this, but he knew the boy didn't deserve such harsh treatment. It's alright, Izuku. I want you to know that whatever happens, there are people who will have your back. Namuri, myself, 1B, and many more. I'm sure you know this, right? Izuku smiled, looking over at his teacher. I do. Not to mention Eri. I'm sure once she hears how they are treating her papa, she'll threaten to rewind everyone. Aizawa tried to lighten the atmosphere, something completely foreign to him. Yeah, but I'd prefer if she wasn't involved, it's got nothing to do with her. I know. Aizawa sat back, staring at the tree line ahead of them. I can't believe this is happening. I can't and won't blame you for being mad or losing control. In fact, I'm tempted to expel Uraraka and Bakugo for what they did, but I know I'll be fought on that. Thank you, Aizawa-sensei. To be honest, I thought you had always hated me, but I know you were just trying to make me better, and I thank you for that. Well, you are my problem child. Still, thank you. Izuku's phone buzzed, vibrating as a caller ID appeared on the screen. Sorry, it's my mom. Go ahead, take it. Nodding, Izuku answered the call. Hey, Mom. Izuku, sweetie. I was just calling to check up on you. It's been so long since you visited. I miss my baby boy. I was hoping you could come visit today. Of course, I don't want you to get in trouble, but I just want to hug my baby. Izuku smiled, though he scratched his cheek. His mother seemed a bit too giddy, but he chalked it up to his paranoia. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's just gotten busy here at UA, and I haven't had the free time to visit. But I'll ask right now if I can, plus I really would like to talk to you in person. Izuku looked at Aizawa, pleading silently, and the teacher waved. Go ahead, you probably need it after today. It seems like I can visit. When should I come by? As soon as you can, sweetie. I'll prepare a feast of katsudon just for you. Sounds great. I'll be there in an hour. Bye. The call ended, and Izuku smiled. He needed to talk to his mom. Other than Aizawa, she was probably the only other person he could confide in. Thank you, Aizawa-sensei. It's no big deal, problem child. Standing up, Aizawa groaned. You best go get ready. In the meantime, I'll try to smooth things over with Nizu. Thank you. Yep, you owe me some coffee for this. Sure thing. I'll be back before curfew, Aizawa said with a smirk as he walked away from Izuku. However, as soon as he left, a knot formed in Izuku's gut. Izuku took a deep breath as he stood at his mother's apartment door. Dressed in jeans and a shirt, he prepared himself for the hug he was sure to receive as soon as he walked in. He had considered bringing Eri along but decided against it. This conversation was better to have in private. Opening the door, Izuku called out with a smile, Mom. I'm home. But his smile faded when he saw the state of the apartment. Furniture was scattered, and there were signs of a struggle. Mom, he shouted, activating his quirk as he searched the home. Mom, where? A chill crept down his spine as he felt a prick at the base of his neck. Turning, he saw Toga smiling at him, holding a needle in her hand, her school sweater. Stained. Oh Aizu, you don't look so good. Do you want to lie down? Izuku's vision blurred, and he stumbled, trying to fight back but ultimately falling to the ground. Why you? What? Shoo. Just close your eyes, Aizu. Soon we'll have some real fun. Izuku's vision faded to black, the last thing he saw was Toga's twisted smile. Aizawa stood by the gates of UA, restless and checking the time on his phone repeatedly. The night was approaching, and Izuku had yet to return to campus. Although he had said he could visit his mother, Aizawa knew he shouldn't be gone this long. When midnight approached him, mentioning that Izuku had been late to pick up Eri, Aizawa's concern deepened. Is he still not here? He asked, looking over his shoulder at Snipe. No. Something isn't right, Aizawa replied, shaking his head. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Aizawa, don't you think he would rather be with his mother than his classmates? I would understand if that were the case, but Aizawa couldn't shake the pit forming in his stomach. I'm going to the Midoriyas and bringing him back. He left before Snipe could respond, sprinting toward the Midoriya household. Something urged him to hurry, and he pushed himself to move faster, leaping across rooftops and weaving through crowds. Arriving at Inko's apartment complex, he ran to the third floor, having memorized the apartment number. He rang the doorbell and knocked loudly, but there was no response. After several attempts, he yelled, "Mrs. Midoriya. It's Shota Aizawa, Izuku's homeroom teacher. Please open the door." Frustrated, he knocked again before making a split-second decision. Turning the knob, he pushed open the door and paused. His guard went up as he surveyed the apartment, which was in disarray. "Izuku. Mrs. Midoriya," he called out, searching the place thoroughly. But there was no sign of either of them. Running a hand through his hair, Aizawa returned to the main living room. If Izuku had fought back, there would have been more evidence of a struggle. If he hadn't, that meant he had been ambushed. A tiny glint caught his attention, moonlight shone on a small object. He quickly grabbed a syringe, the smell confirming his worst fears drags. Shaking his head, Aizawa pulled out his cell phone and dialed Nizu's number. "Nizu, I need you to mobilize all available staff and police. Midoriya and his mother have been kidnapped. Their apartment is trashed, and I suspect Midoriya was drugged." Ending the call, he quickly left the apartment, rushing out into the streets. "Hold on, problem child. I'm bringing you home." Izuku's head pounded, and his body felt sluggish and unresponsive. He couldn't focus, his thoughts jumbled. His vision was dark, and he could only hear muffled sounds. As far as he could tell, he was sitting down but couldn't move his wrists or activate his quirk. Wakey, wakey. The darkness lifted, replaced by bright lights. Izuku squinted, adjusting to the brightness, and saw Shigaraki staring down at him with a large smile. "You. Oh, Aizu, I'm so glad you're awake." Toga exclaimed as she jumped onto Izuku's lap, kissing him. Izuku recoiled, feeling sick as he leaned forward, overwhelmed. "Where am I? What did you do to my mom?" he managed to ask, recalling the state of the apartment before he lost consciousness. As long as his mother was okay, he would do anything to protect her. "Why don't you see for yourself?" It wasn't Shigaraki nor Toga who spoke. Izuku turned his head and spotted Dabi, Twice, Spinner, Kurogiri, and Compress all watching, most of them smiling. Dabi stepped away from the group, his footsteps echoing. Izuku tried to determine where he was, hoping to alert people to his location. However, the absence of noise from outside didn't bode well. "Hey! Pay attention. We have something we are excited to show you." Izuku felt his jaw being roughly grabbed, forcing him to look directly in front of him. Dabi emerged from the darkness, holding long locks of dark green hair. Izuku's eyes widened as he thrashed in his seat when the person was brought into the light. "Let her go. You all will pay for this." Izuku tugged at his binds and kicked his legs wildly. His mother was thrown to the floor, her face bruised and her clothing torn. Tears streamed down her face. "Oh. That doesn't sound like something a hero would say," Compress mocked from the sidelines, the group joining him except for Spinner, who remained silent, regret evident on his face. "What do you want?" Izuku glared at Shigaraki, filled with rage. "I want to send a message. Deku, your involvement has ruined my plans, and my master doesn't appreciate your interference. I want to show everyone who goes against the League of Villains what awaits them. You and your mother are going to set the stage." Shigaraki's grin widened. "I could end this quickly, but I made a promise to make you suffer." He snapped his fingers, and Izuku watched as the male members of the League surrounded his mother. Shigaraki then placed his fingers on Izuku's side. "Now let's get started." "No. Stop." The war room of UA was a place neither staff nor heroes wished to be. The tension was thick and volatile. Aizawa's scruffed face looked even more tired than usual, his beard scraggly from weeks without shaving. Namuri appeared depressed, her eyes lacking life and filled with longing. The teachers were all worse for wear. At the head of the table, Principal Nizu took a deep breath. Today marks a full month since Izuku Midoriya's disappearance. As of today, police have called off the search, and many heroes have as well. It is with regret that we must do the same. We can't. Namuri mumbled, her fists clenching. How can we call off our search? He's our student. What kind of heroes are we if we give up now? With respect, Nizu, I can't do that. I let him go that day. How am I supposed to face Eri or myself if I don't find him? Aizawa banged his fist against the desk, looking at the principal. Aizawa, I understand your guilt, but it wasn't your fault. This situation was completely out of our control. There was no way we could have prevented this. Yeah, we could have. If All Might hadn't driven him away that day. If I had kept him here. Aizawa glared at Toshinori, angry at himself most of all. Had we not treated him like he was a monster for a simple altercation between two students, he would be here now. He would be training to live up to the expectations set on him. He would be with his daughter. You don't understand. A simple altercation. He almost harmed Bakugo, All Might replied, not liking that the blame had been placed on him. And that warranted him being treated like everything else he's ever done was a waste. Namuri stood from her chair, the furniture clattering to the ground. Katsuki Bakugo is not deserving of this. Why is it that when Bakugo was in danger, we did everything to get him back, but when it comes to Izuku, you look the other way? We knew where Bakugo was then. So just because we don't know where Izuku is, you give up. What kind of hero are you? Had young Midoriya just handed over One for All like he was asked, none of this would have happened. Aizawa gritted his teeth and leaped over the table, confronting Toshinori. You. All you care about is the quirk. What about Izuku, huh? Aizawa punched Toshinori again before being restrained by Snipe and Present Mike. Shota, stop. You were supposed to be his mentor. You were supposed to support him no matter what. I want you to go and tell Eri that you'll find her papa, knowing you're not even a step closer. But you won't. The other teachers had never seen Aizawa so angry before, it was frightening. Namuri tried to intervene but was stopped by Cementos. The room was filled with heated arguments, and it was clear that the bond between the heroes was fraying. Nizu attempted to calm everyone down, but it was to no avail. Just then, a ping alerted him to an email from his computer. Opening the email, he noticed the sender was unfamiliar, but the subject caught his attention. It was a live stream titled Deku's Retirement, and Nizu called out to his staff. Everyone. There's a lead on Midoriya. Everyone froze, and Aizawa looked to Nizu. Play it now. Nodding, Nizu shared his computer screen with the main TV in the war room. Clicking to join the stream, the heroes were greeted by a black screen and the sounds of struggled breathing. Izuku's bloodshot eyes drooped. His entire being ached in terrible pain. His body was covered in fresh wounds. His clothes were in tatters, and he was barely holding on. He didn't know what day it was, whether it was daytime or night. Those were privileges he wasn't allowed. His mother lay in front of him, and he had seen her hurt and mistreated. She was already unconscious, and only her shallow breathing told him she was alive, though part of him wished she wasn't. His breaths were heavy and ragged. Toga had used him, claiming she had wanted his children, and he had endured her torment for hours until he felt like a shell of himself. The urge to cry made his eyes well up with tears, but they refused to fall. There was no point anymore. Eri, he mumbled her name, and the bright smiling face of his daughter forced a faint smile onto his own. He missed her so much, all he wanted was to hold her in his arms once more. A bitter chuckle escaped him. Everything felt so unfair. He was born quirkless, destined to fail. Then he met All Might and gained a chance to make the world better, only for it to be stripped away. Izuku could only feel his anger, the pain fading into the background. They're probably celebrating that the monster is gone. Friends. What a joke. She's probably with him again. His head dropped low. If he saw me now, he'd laugh. Please. Just. Someone. He hoped someone would save him, but he knew it was impossible. Izuku. We've come to get you. Izuku scrunched his eyes and looked up to see Aizawa. Senior say. He swept his head around, realizing the League had been apprehended without him even noticing. That's right. Come on, problem child, let's get you out of here. Eri's been waiting for you. Izuku felt the binds on his wrists loosen, and he struggled to get up. Luckily, Aizawa helped him. Leaning on Aizawa's shoulder, he saw his mom being placed on a stretcher by a team of paramedics. Did. They still have you full of drags. Don't try to think about everything all at once, take your time. It's alright now. Izuku felt reassured by Aizawa's words as he closed his eyes and fell asleep. He could finally rest. Beep. 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 Izuku opened his eyes to a pure white room. A hospital. Sitting up, he looked at several IVs hooked up to his bandaged body. Distracted, he barely noticed the door to his room squeak until a small voice yelled out. Papa. Eri. He snapped to attention, watching his little girl run to him in tears. She rapidly climbed the bed before she dove into him. It stung for obvious reasons, but his happiness subdued the pain. Papa. I. Eri sobbed, clinging on to Izuku harder than ever as if he were going to disappear again. Izuku hugged Eri back tightly, pushing her head into the crook of his neck. Don't worry, Eri. Papa won't ever leave you again. Closing his eyes, Izuku smiled before a hand roughly grabbed his hair. Wake up. We can't have you sleeping for the grand finale. Huh? What? No. He wasn't saved. That was just a dream. Izuku cried, he just wanted to see her again. He wanted this pain to stop. Don't cry, Aizu. Oh, I know. What if we brought that little brat Eri here for this? Wouldn't you be happy to see her again? Don't you dare touch a hair on her head. Izuku growled. With limited options, he bit at Toga's forearm, drawing blood before he spat the liquid in her face. You monster. Izuku groaned as a knife pierced his gut. Stop, Toga, we can't kill him yet. TCH. Fine. Izuku felt the back of his chair being grabbed before he was dragged into a bright spotlight. In front of him, a camera covered with a black cloth could be seen. Shigaraki then stood in front of him, blocking his body from the camera. Then the cover was pulled off. Welcome everyone to the retirement party of the one and only up-and-coming hero in training, Deku. Izuku stared into the camera, giving a small, pained grin. This was a public execution. So this is the message. A fist struck Izuku across the jaw as Compress pulled his head back. Hey, don't you know it's impolite not to introduce yourself? Now, what's your name? Izuku Midoriya. And who do you hate? Izuku paused. Who did he hate? That question had too many answers. He hated Katsuki Bakugo, the bully who made his childhood hell. He hated Kai Chisaki for torturing his daughter. He hated All Might, the hypocritical figure responsible for so much suffering, intentional or not. He hated Uraraka, the betrayal stinging deep. He hated his class, the two-faced backstabbers. He hated the League of Villains, rather, he hated every villain like them. They took everything from innocent people. It's people like them who tortured him and his mother. They were no better than animals. Heroes put them away only for them to escape and hurt again. If he could, he would stop them all. You won't get away with this. That response wasn't favored. Dabi wielding a crowbar struck at his knee, the pain shooting through him. Izuku refused to scream, biting his lip defiantly as he glared at his captors. His rage kept him awake, and right now, he was only being given more reasons to fight back. Seems like you don't understand the position you're in. Compress nodded to the dark corner, and Kurogiri opened a portal. Inko dropped onto the floor in front of Izuku. She was still injured, covered in dirt. Izuku's head was locked into place as he watched his pained mother look at him and give a small smile. Her lips moved, and he read what she was trying to say. I love you. Izuku's eyes teared up again as Spinner came into view, holding a long knife. His face looked pained, but Izuku watched as the villain grabbed Inko. No. Izuku's heart raced as he felt helpless. I'll hunt. You. All. I'll make you pay. Izuku howled, his quirk activating for a split second with energy radiating around him. He snapped the binding on his right arm before he grabbed Compress by the neck, squeezing in a desperate attempt to fight back. But before he could, Toga jumped onto his back, injecting him with a tranquilizer. Izuku felt the pressure on his arm as Compress struck him, while Dabi targeted his stomach with a crowbar. Despite the pain, he fought to maintain his grip, but the tranquilizer began to take effect, weakening him. As his quirk faded, Compress slipped from his grasp, and Izuku became disoriented, falling into a puddle. He was quickly lifted back into his chair and strapped in, his mind clouded by the drag. That was rude. It seems punishment is in order, but since it's your farewell party, we can do this differently. Now everyone, listen and watch closely, this is where the party starts. The beatings began. Izuku endured blows from fists, feet, and crowbars, feeling the sharp edge of knives against his skin. He struggled to breathe as his left lung collapsed and his ribs fractured. Dabi shattered his shoulder, while Toga stabbed his left hand, fueling Izuku's desire for revenge. He refused to scream, determined not to die until he could avenge his mother. Toga's turn came next. He recalled being injected with drags, teetering on the brink of overdose as she exerted her will over him. There was no pleasure, only disgust, as she carved the letter H into his skin, marking him as hers. Had his mouth not been taped, he would have fought back fiercely. Through the torment, Izuku's thoughts remained fixed on his mother. He vowed to avenge her wrongful death. She should have lived to see him become a hero and to witness her granddaughter grow up. But these monsters had taken that from her. Eri was the only Midoriya left, and he would not allow her to suffer the same fate. The pain surged through his mind, igniting his need for vengeance. He was aware that he wouldn't be saved, he understood that better than anyone. Time lost meaning as Toga continued her torment. Finally, he looked into the camera as Shigaraki made his exit, knocking it over. Izuku watched as gasoline was poured around him, on the walls and floor. Apologies, but now the show must end. Goodbye, Deku, I hope your retirement is a peaceful one. The group slipped through a small door into the daylight, while Dabi lingered behind, his hands sparking with blue fire. He leaned down, igniting the trail of gasoline, and in an instant, the room was engulfed in flames. Izuku realized he had been trapped in a warehouse. He rocked his chair side to side until it finally broke apart. Crawling toward his mother's body, he noticed several steel drums marked with a symbol. A bitter grin spread across his face as he touched Inko's body, looking at the camera one last time. Suddenly, a loud explosion of blue flame consumed the video feed, cutting out entirely. The heroes were left in stunned silence, processing what they had just witnessed. Seconds passed before Nemuri broke the silence, tears welling in her eyes. Izuku. What? No. No. Her anguished scream echoed in the room as she fell to her knees, gripping her hair tightly. Aizawa, in shock, struggled to comprehend the loss of his student. This can't be. He placed a hand to his head, feeling faint, and stumbled against the desk. He had seen death before, but this was different. Nizu. The principal remained still for a moment before rapidly typing on his computer. Everyone focus. I'm tracing the video's location. You need to calm yourselves. Aizawa shook his head, trying to regain his composure. He had to find Izuku. Namiri, however, was lost in despair, unable to shake the images of Izuku's suffering from her mind. No, please. Izuku, she cried, breaking down in front of her colleagues. I've got a location. Police, firefighters, and paramedics are already on their way. Nizu announced. Where is it? Aizawa demanded, urgency in his voice. It's Narahata, in the abandoned district near the outskirts. Aizawa knew the area well. It made sense, there were many abandoned buildings and few residents. He cursed himself for not searching there sooner when Izuku was missing. Grabbing a chair, he smashed it against the window, shattering the glass, and jumped out. Snipe. Hound dog, follow Aizawa and make sure you find Midoriya. Move. Aizawa shouted as he pushed past the police line, panic rising in him at the sight of the collapsed warehouse. The fire had mostly been extinguished, but that offered little comfort. He rushed to the rubble, calling out for Izuku. Izuku! Izuku! Silence answered him. He continued to search until he found a body. Freezing, he quickly inspected it, realizing it was female. Mrs. Midoriya. He would mourn her later, right now, he had to keep searching. He moved from section to section, finding no clues, no blood, no clothing. The absence of evidence only fueled his anger. Hound dog. Can you track Midoriya's scent? The leaks? Hound dog sniffed the air but could only detect smoke, the chemicals from the explosion masking everything else. I can't. The smoke is covering up everything. Just try. Aizawa breathed, struggling to maintain his composure. It felt like it was all his fault for allowing Izuku to leave campus. Please, Izuku. The thought of facing Eri and telling her that something terrible had happened was unbearable. Snipe. I got nothing. Maybe he isn't here. Maybe the video was edited. Snipe was grasping for hope as he watched Aizawa search through the rubble. Unable to bear seeing his usually composed teacher in such distress, Snipe rushed over and pulled Aizawa back. Calm down. Aizawa grit his teeth and shook off Snipe's grip. Acting on instinct, he wrapped his scarf around Snipe before taking him to the ground. Just as he was about to strike, Hound Dog intervened. Get a hold of yourself. You aren't going to help Midoriya like this. Ugh. Aizawa released Snipe and covered his face with his hands. Come on, let's give our statements and get back to UA. We need to inform the others. Aizawa sighed. Okay. He swallowed hard as he stood at the door of the war room within UA. Opening the door, he stepped inside, feeling the weight of everyone's gaze. Shota, you found him, right? You found Izuku? Namiri was the first to ask, but he couldn't respond. He looked at Namiri, who had tear streaks on her face, her blue eyes filled with hope for an answer he didn't have. We didn't find him. The heartbreak on Namiri's face was palpable. You just didn't check hard enough. Namiri tried to push past Aizawa, but he stopped her. Stop. I searched as thoroughly as I could. There were no clues. Hound Dog couldn't find a scent. So you gave up? I won't. Move out of my way. I wanted to find him, Namiri. I tried. Don't say I gave up. Aizawa's voice rose, I never gave up. I still haven't. Namiri glared at him, her tears mingling with her fierce anger. Namiri pushed Aizawa aside and sat down. He's still out there. So no clues, not even any articles of clothing? Nizu asked, focused on the computer in front of him. No, there's nothing. I see. Nizu paused, shaking his head. Then it's either Midoriya is still with the League or he was lost in the blast. Judging from the video, either way, I believe that Midoriya is. He's gone. Toshinori finished Nizu's thought. He's not gone. Izuku is stronger than all of us combined. He's alive and he's out there. I won't stop until I find him. Namuri shouted, refusing to accept the possibility of his death. Izuku is better than all of us. There's no way he's gone. I agree with Namuri, I believe the League is still holding him captive. Aizawa supported her, unwilling to believe Izuku was lost until he saw it with his own eyes. You can't just say that after what we just witnessed. With those injuries, it's only a matter of time. Toshinori argued, concerned about the implications for OFA. AFO was still alive, meaning OFA was still needed in this world. If you say he's gone one more time. Silence. Nizu interjected before another argument could erupt. It pained him to say what was necessary, but it had to be addressed. While I agree both theories are possible, we must consider how to report this. Virtually nobody could survive an explosion at its center. I don't want to say this, but we must inform our students that Izuku Midoriya is missing. Nizu. Quiet. Many students would put themselves in danger to pursue the League if they believe Midoriya is being held captive. When we first reported Midoriya and his mother missing, several students, including the Big Three and Class 1B, wanted to join the search. They had no idea who had taken Midoriya. What do you think will happen if they believe the League is responsible? As principal, it's my duty to protect my students. I have failed with Midoriya, but I won't allow any more students to be put in harm's way. But reporting him as missing? This is a necessary action. I'm sorry, but I need you all to gather your students in the auditorium. We will announce the news. Aizawa and Namuri remained silent as the underground hero stormed out of the room, muttering to himself. Aizawa couldn't think straight and headed straight to his private office. Once inside, he lashed out in frustration. It's all my fault. He overturned his desk, spilling its contents onto the floor. He threw his chair against the wall, feeling the weight of his emotions. I let him leave that day. I sent him off to danger. If only I had stopped him. Tears fell from Aizawa's eyes as his anger subsided into sorrow. He leaned against the wall, sliding down to the floor, unable to suppress his quiet sobs. It should have been me. Why did it have to be Izuku? The boy had so much potential to be a great hero. Aizawa thought of how Izuku might be suffering and then of Eri. What am I going to tell her? He had promised her he would find Izuku, and she believed him. Nijire sat at her desk, her fingers weaving strands of white hair into tight braids. She sighed, feeling the weight of a month without any news about Izuku. It was hard to believe he had just vanished, especially with Eri in his life. She knew how much Izuku cared for Eri, which made his absence all the more suspicious. She missed him dearly, and her heart ached every time she woke up to find he still hadn't returned. But her pain was nothing compared to Eri's. Looking at her pseudo-daughter, Nijire spoke with concern, Eri? Are you okay? I am okay. Eri said quietly, refusing to look back. In her arms, she clutched the green bunny Izuku had gotten for her. Nijire frowned at how low Eri's voice was. Ever since Izuku had gone missing, Eri had become a shadow of her former self, reminiscent of her time with Overhaul. It pained Nijire to see her like this. Despite the support from Mei, Reiko, Itsuka, and Namuri, nothing seemed to bring Eri back to her old self. It was clear that only Izuku could truly restore her smile. Nijire focused on Eri's hair when the classroom speaker turned on, alerting everyone. All students report to the auditorium. Principal Nizu has an announcement to make. Please wait until your teachers have cleared you. The suddenness of it made Nijire's heart race. Is this about Izuku? Did they find him? Her mind raced with questions, and a smile appeared on her face as she lifted Eri into her arms. Mirio and Amajiki exchanged smiles as well. Class 1A, the top hero class at UA, sat in their seats. Many had already packed their bags, anticipating a long announcement. Just as they were about to leave, Aizawa stepped into the classroom. Jiro noticed Aizawa's irregular heartbeat, and the rest quickly saw that he looked unwell. All of you go to the auditorium. Aizawa-sensei, are you alright? Ida asked, only to receive a fierce glare. Tenya Ida, my health is of no concern to you. Report to the auditorium now. Aizawa's voice was sharp, and the class hesitated, even Bakugu recoiling. They quickly rushed out, confused but suspecting it might be about Midoriya. In Class 1B, the students packed their bags as instructed but speculated about the announcement. I wonder what this is about. Itsuka mused, glancing at Reiko, who seemed lost in thought. Perhaps something serious happened. Reiko replied vaguely, sensing the importance of the situation. You think it's about Izuku? I mean, he's been missing. Setsuna blurted out before covering her mouth, noticing the pained expressions on Reiko and Itsuka's faces. Sorry, I didn't mean to. It's alright. The class fell silent, aware of Reiko and Itsuka's feelings for Class A's golden boy. Their concern for Eri had made it clear. When Izuku's absence was announced, they were the first to react, with Reiko even confronting their teacher Vlad to join the search parties. Before the tension could settle, Vlad entered with a serious expression. Is everyone ready? It's important that we attend this assembly. Yes, we are, Itsuka replied, stepping forward with her classmates lining up behind her. Well then, let's go. In her workshop, Mei worked tirelessly on her inventions, her babies. Despite the chaos around her, this was her only distraction, along with thoughts of Eri. Izuku's disappearance had affected her more than she realized. Every day, she felt the urge to visit his dorm and ask him to prototype one of her inventions, a common excuse to see him. But the reality hit her hard, he wasn't there. Covered in grime, she avoided looking around her workshop, littered with upgrades and a new hero suit she had prepared for him. He had promised to visit her workshop the day before he went missing. When he didn't show up, she knew something was wrong. She had searched all his usual spots, only to find them empty. Izuku was not one to break promises, and she missed his reminders to take care of herself. Handsome. Oh, Powerloader-sensei. Didn't you hear the announcement? He asked, noticing her distraction. What was it about? Mei inquired, still focused on her work. It's about Midoriya. What? Did something happen? Did you find him? Mei quickly set down her wrench, wiping her hands. All will be explained at the assembly. Come on. The auditorium filled with students from all grades and subjects, each taking their seats as they awaited the assembly. Eri, sitting on Nijire's lap, scanned the crowd for one person in particular. Aizawa spotted her first and walked down the aisle. He prepared himself as Eri smiled at him. Uncle Aizawa. Did you find Papa? His hand, which had been poised to slide her head, paused. Eri.I. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Instead, he clenched his fist, unable to say anything that wouldn't feel like a lie. So he remained silent. Eri wanted to ask again, but someone cleared their throat on stage. Principal Nizu held a microphone, his expression serious. Good afternoon, students. As many of you are aware, a month ago, Izuku Midoriya from Class 1A was reported missing along with his mother. Recent events have brought to light the condition of both Inko and Izuku Midoriya. It is with heavy regret that I must inform you that Inko Midoriya and Izuku Midoriya have been found. He paused, the weight of his words heavy in the air. Their condition is currently unknown. No one spoke a word, all were scared to break the silence. Eri was frozen, her mind trying to comprehend what she had just been told. Her eyes watered with fresh tears, and with trembling lips, she looked to Aizawa. "Uncle. Papa is coming back, right? You promised." Aizawa struggled to hold himself together, but he was losing quickly. All around, others looked to their friends, ensuring that what they heard was true. Reiko and Itsuka received many concerned stares from their friends, but they were too occupied to notice. Reiko maintained her emotionless stare, but that facade crumbled as tears fell down her cheeks. Itsuka covered her mouth, her body hunched over as if she might be sick. Mei hugged herself, caught in a cycle of disbelief. She wanted to scream but couldn't, thinking that if she had improved her inventions for Izuku, he could have lived. Nijire's head was spinning, she couldn't make sense of what she heard, but her heart felt as though it was being squeezed. She hadn't noticed the tears falling onto her clothes as Eri spoke once more. "Where's Papa?" Eri was close to having a panic attack, her heart couldn't handle this as her tears increased. "Uncle, you promised. Where's Papa? Where?" She screamed, her voice breaking as she stared at Aizawa, who was letting his own tears fall. "Papa! Grandma!" She screamed for anyone, she couldn't be the last Midoriya. She had never had a family until they showed up, and without them. "Papa is still there. He's waiting for me." Eri hyperventilated, her entire body shaking before she ran, her mind set on one place. Running past Aizawa, the man tried to grab her, but he was too late. She dashed toward the door as fast as she could, but before she could make it out, Namuri caught her in a hug. The woman cried as Eri struggled in her grasp. "Papa! Papa!" Namuri held the girl tight, her heart shattering at the pure desperation in Eri's face. She could see the girl's spirit breaking little by little, and she couldn't do anything to stop it. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," she whispered as she activated her quirk. Eri's struggles slowed until she fell unconscious. Namuri wiped her tears before leaving with Eri in her arms, she couldn't stay there anymore. Though many grieved for Izuku's death, there was one who lacked such sympathy. Katsuki Bakugo grinned, hiding his laughter. Deku finally got what he deserves. Always getting in my way, thinking he was better. Well, who's better now? Now he and his partner can rot. Don't worry, Deku, I'll be the #1 hero and live the life I deserve. Nizu looked at the crowd before gripping the microphone. I understand if time is needed to grieve. Class will be paused for an indefinite amount of time until you're all ready to resume. I wish there was happier news I could share, but unfortunately, there isn't, and for that, I'm sorry. I caution all of you to stay inside the campus and not venture out. For those in work studies, your supervising heroes will be notified. This assembly is dismissed. Slowly, students left, with some notably remaining in pure silence: Nijire, Itsuka, Reiko, and Mei. They didn't look at anyone or anything, trapped within their own thoughts, which perhaps was the worst place to be. Once most people left, only one remained in the auditorium. Aizawa stared at the empty spaces, Eri's eyes filled with hurt at his perceived betrayal staring back at him. He felt he had betrayed her, he had betrayed Izuku. I should have never let him go. Aizawa turned to leave, he didn't deserve to be a teacher or a mentor. Eri hugged her stuffed bunny tight, her eyes shut and face buried in the pillow of Izuku's bed. She whimpered within Namuri's embrace, the woman lying with her in the bed. Namuri had brought her back to Izuku's dorm, the only thing she could think of. Namuri tried to soothe Eri, but she too wasn't in the best condition. Unlike the other girls, she had witnessed how Izuku had suffered. A part of her was relieved they didn't know the details. Why am I thinking about Izuku as if he is gone, she questioned herself. They hadn't found a body or any clues. He's still alive. I know it. Will Papa come back? Eri's low voice caught Namuri's attention. She placed a hand on Eri's cheek and turned the girl's head so that her blue eyes met Nemuri's red ones. Eri. Your papa is strong. I know he wouldn't leave you. I know he'll come back. Nemuri paused, offering a smile. Until then, I'll take care of you, so when your papa does come back, he'll be happy his little snowball can still smile. Picking up Eri, she laid on her back with Eri resting on her chest. Mama will take care of you. Eri sniffled before burying her head into Nemuri. Papa. It was hot. The blue flames burned in his emerald eyes. His fingers glided along the cold surface. I won't. The fire expanded, and he could count the time he had left with his fingers. He let out a breath, feeling a surge of energy as he pushed against the weight. I won't give up, he yelled, determination filling him. He could feel the heat closing in, but he refused to back down. He watched as the world around him shook, his resolve stronger than the pain. He pushed off with all his strength, propelled by sheer will. The light of day was all he could see as he flew through the air, not knowing where he would land. He closed his eyes, ready for whatever came next. The rush of air he felt should have been comforting, knowing that he was free from his previous situation, but it didn't bring him peace. Instead, it served as a reminder of his perceived failure. As a quirkless individual, he had survived while his mother had not. The rush of air only fueled his anger. Opening his eyes, Izuku turned so that his left shoulder aimed downward. He could feel the shift in the air indicating he was coming closer to the ground. By the scenery, it was easy to tell he had flown far enough to leave the city and enter the forest. He had put everything into his jump, and with the explosion propelling him, it was no wonder he had no idea where he was. Bracing himself, Izuku covered his head as he broke through a cluster of trees. He hit the ground hard, branches snapping and scratching at his skin. In an attempt to reduce the impact, he tried to grab onto a tree branch but ended up dislocating his right arm. Nothing could stop him as he made contact with the ground, rolling and skidding on the grass. After a few seconds, he came to a stop against the base of another tree. He could feel more of his ribs break. Clenching his fist, he curled up into a fetal position. A scream escaped his lips, filled with pain and frustration. It wasn't just the physical pain, his mind was overwhelmed with memories of loss and violence. He was filled with anger, vowing to find those responsible and make them pay. He lay there, soft sobs escaping him. I'll find them. I'll make them pay. He pounded his fist on the ground, only causing more pain to shoot through his body. Eventually, fatigue from blood loss began to take over. What good was his promise if he died here? With no other option, he leaned against the tree, pulling himself up. His broken knee made it difficult and painful. Once on his feet, he took a moment to catch his breath, glancing at his dislocated arm. He turned it over, hissing in pain as he bashed his shoulder against the tree to fix it. With a loud crack, his shoulder was forced back into its socket. With his arm feeling somewhat better, he limped forward, blood staining his skin and leaving a trail behind him. Using the trees for support, he kept moving, unsure of his location or direction. He had no time to waste. Ripping apart the remains of his clothing, he fashioned a makeshift bandage around his abdomen where he had been injured. Coughing, he spat out blood, his chest stinging with pain. He could barely breathe, his body beginning to fail him. Those monsters. I'll find them, he muttered, his vision blurring as he lost more blood. He continued walking until he noticed a dark cavern. Unsure if it was real, he ventured inside, the cold air making his already pale body feel even colder. Thirst overwhelmed him as he licked his lips, his throat dry. He was exhausted and wanted to close his eyes, but a part of him screamed not to. He didn't know how long he wandered through the winding tunnels before he heard the sound of small splashes, as if something were being thrown into a pond. Following the sound, he arrived at a small pit of glowing green water. It looked peculiar, but he was desperate for water. He tried to move closer, but his body was shutting down. Falling to the floor, he coughed up blood. Unable to walk, he crawled, his nails scraping against the ground as he dragged himself toward the pit. He needed to live, to avenge his mother and protect those he cared about. As he reached the water, his injuries caught up with him, and he collapsed. His body slipped into the green water, and for a moment, everything was quiet. Then, a crackle of red lightning erupted from the surface. More bolts followed, and the water began to boil as the lightning increased in intensity. The lightning broke free, striking the surrounding walls and chipping away at the rocks. The water splashed violently as a figure emerged, letting out a feral yell. Izuku's wounds healed, leaving only scars. He thrashed in pain, his body transforming rapidly, muscles becoming more defined and his height increasing. He expelled the green water, panic setting in as his body acted on its own. With newfound speed, he dashed away from the pit, leaving only a flash of red behind him. He ran down one of the many tunnels, not caring for direction, until he was forced to stop. In the dim light, he saw a large metal door. Confused but with no other option, he jammed his fingers into the gap between the two plates of metal and pushed with all his strength. The metal creaked, protesting the forceful entrance, but Izuku pressed on until light could be seen through a small crack. Even with his quirk activated, the door refused to budge, clearly designed to resist such force. Intrigued, he pushed it open just enough to fit through, covering his eyes as several lights blinded him. Once his eyes adjusted, Izuku marveled at the space he had entered. Weapons of every kind lined the walls, and armored vehicles equipped with weaponry stood still. The entire room was filled with technology he had never seen before. It was obvious that this place was man-made, with sleek walls that contrasted sharply with the rocky texture of the cave he had stumbled into. It felt almost alien. Where am I? He wondered, searching for anything familiar before his gaze landed on a single door. The red bat symbol stamped on the sleek metal caught his attention. Approaching the door, he looked for a handle but found none. He tried sliding it and pushing it open, but it was only when he placed his hand on the bat symbol that something happened. A light flashed beneath his hand, seemingly scanning it before a robotic voice announced, "Handprint identification failed. Biometric security." Izuku thought, realizing he didn't have time to hack his way through. Opting for brute force, he searched for anything to use as a lever and found a crowbar. Memories of his past flooded back, but he pushed them aside and gripped the tool. Angling the crowbar, he activated his quirk, noticing a color change he found odd but didn't question. He wedged the crowbar into the small gap and pushed with all his strength. After a painstaking 15 minutes, he finally managed to budge the door open. Stepping inside, Izuku watched as automatic lights illuminated a large workshop area. Tools were organized and ready for use, but what caught his attention most were several display cases showcasing different costumes. Is this a hero's base? He wondered, walking to one of the cases and placing his hand on the glass. He stared at the black-plated armor and the intimidating red helmet, tracing every detail as he tried to recall if he had ever seen a hero wear such armor. Turning, he searched for any indicators of whose place he had infiltrated and spotted a computer. He approached it and turned the screen on, which lit up with the same bat symbol before words appeared. "Welcome, Red Hood." Izuku realized he had never heard of this individual before. Despite the breach of privacy, he scrolled through the files on the computer, trying to understand his situation. He learned about Red Hood, also known as Jason Todd, a vigilante from the pre-quirk era. The files detailed the vigilante's training, weapons, martial arts, and workouts. Everything was revealed. Izuku stopped looking only when the files came to an end. Sitting down, he gazed at the displayed armors. Red Hood. The vigilante had lived a past similar to his own, perhaps even worse, yet he still fought for justice after his resurrection. As he looked at his own body, his eyes fell on the scarred H on his skin. Red Hood was an agent of vengeance, and perhaps through him, Izuku could find a way to honor his mother. He sat staring at the ceiling, realizing he didn't have many choices. He could return to UA to reunite with his daughter, but that would mean giving up his quirk, which felt like a death sentence. Without a quirk, he wouldn't be able to protect Eri, and if the League discovered he was alive, they would undoubtedly hunt him down. The other option was to take on Red Hood's identity. He was sure he had been reported dead, and by adopting Red Hood's name, he could avenge his mother and protect his remaining family. The League was dangerous, they had already threatened Eri, and the insane don't need a reason to act on their threats. He knew he couldn't just imprison them. The justice system in this society had failed repeatedly. Killers were locked up only to escape and kill again. All for One was a prime example. He had enslaved the country for centuries, and yet none of his predecessors had managed to eliminate him while innocents suffered. Izuku couldn't let Shigaraki and the League live, their actions against his mother and him were unforgivable. "Mom," he whispered, remembering how she deserved so much better. She deserved a son worthy of her love. He should have protected her, but he hadn't. Her life had been taken unjustly, and he couldn't bear the thought of his daughter facing the same fate. His choice was clear, he didn't need to deliberate any longer. Standing, he faced the display case he had touched earlier. His reflection melded with the red helmet, making them one. Izuku Midoriya had died, the hero Deku had been incinerated, and all that remained was the Red Hood.